Oh, dear people, there are moments, holy moments, when the eyes of Jesus meet yours, and something deeper than words is spoken. You feel it, don't you? That sudden stillness, that sacred stirring in your spirit. But when he locks eyes with you, he's not just looking, he's calling. It's as if heaven itself pauses, and the King of Glory, the lover of your soul, is trying to tell you something your heart has been aching to hear your whole life. He's saying, I see you. I know you. I have not forgotten you. He's not accusing. He's not ashamed. He's not walking away. He's saying, you are mine. And oh, when you finally look back into those eyes, eyes of mercy, eyes of love, you will never be the same again. When Jesus locks eyes with you, it is not a random glance or a fleeting moment. It is a divine invitation, one so personal, so intimate, that it bypasses the natural realm and reaches into the deepest places of your soul. This kind of eye contact doesn't just happen in the physical. It is spiritual. It's the still, piercing awareness that the creator of the universe has turned his full attention toward you, not because he has to, but because he wants to. You see, when Jesus looks at you, he is not distracted. His gaze is not divided. He's not glancing over you like the world so often does. He is locking eyes with you in a way that says, I see only you right now. There are moments in the presence of God when everything else fades. The noise of the world dims, and all that remains is the overwhelming awareness that he is near. These are the moments when his eyes find you, not because you are worthy in yourself, but because his love seeks out the overlooked, the broken, the hungry. When his eyes lock with yours, it is not to condemn or shame you. No, it is to call you. He is calling you into something deeper, into a relationship that transforms, into a purpose that awakens your spirit, into a healing that no man can give. That invitation is quiet but undeniable. It is not shouted. It is not forced. It is gently spoken through a look that says, will you come closer? So many people live their lives feeling invisible, passed by, pushed aside, unnoticed. But when Jesus locks eyes with you, he breaks through all that rejection. His look doesn't just say, I see you. It says, I choose you. The woman at the well felt it. One moment she was drawing water, hiding in her shame, burdened by her past. The next moment she was seen, truly seen, by a man who knew everything about her and yet didn't turn away. He looked into her and through her and still stayed. That is what divine eye contact does. It invites you out of hiding. It draws you into the light, not to expose you, but to heal you. To tell you that no matter how deep your well of pain may be, his eyes reach deeper still. When Jesus looks at you, he sees not just who you are, but who you were created to be. His eyes carry a vision of your potential, your calling, your destiny. It is not the look of someone guessing your worth. It is the look of the one who gave it to you in the first place. His eye contact carries authority, but not domination. It holds truth, but not accusation. It is a look that sees everything, your weakness, your questions, your fears, and says, I'm still here. That gaze holds both power and gentleness. It is a look that strengthens and softens all at once. A look that says, I'm not afraid of what I see in you. In fact, I came for it. The things God will speak to your heart only when you meet his eyes. Not in the rush, not in the crowd, but in that still moment when your spirit lifts to meet his gaze. Some prayers are not answered with words. They're answered with that divine look. You feel it in your soul, in your bones. It's not emotional hype. It's a holy moment where time stands still. And you realize that he's been waiting for you to look back. That's the invitation. To look back into the eyes that have never stopped watching over you. Eyes that watched you in your sin, your sorrow, your silence, and still kept loving. When Jesus locks eyes with you, it is an invitation to come out of performance and into presence. It's not about impressing him, it's about encountering him. He doesn't want the version of you that has everything figured out. He wants the real you, the tired you, the broken you, the doubting you. Because that's who he came for. He's not waiting for you to be ready. He's inviting you as you are, right now. That look carries grace. It carries compassion. It carries purpose. And once you've experienced it, once you stood still long enough to feel the weight of his eyes on you, you can never return to the shallow glances of this world. So many of us spend our lives searching for someone to notice us, to validate us, to truly see us. But his gaze settles the search. You don't need to perform for it, earn it, or beg for it. It is freely given. He is not impressed by status, titles, or appearance. He sees the heart. And if you've ever wondered whether he notices you, whether your pain, your prayers, your process matter, his eyes are the answer. They don't just notice you, they know you. They carry a knowing that is deeper than your own. And in that knowing is the most powerful invitation you will ever receive. When he looks at you, he's not just seeing the surface. He sees beyond your mask. In a world where people often hide behind smiles, appearances, and achievements, Jesus looks straight through it all. You might be able to fool others, sometimes even yourself, but you cannot hide from the one whose gaze penetrates the heart. He sees the fear behind the confidence, the sorrow behind the laughter, the questions behind the answers. His eyes cut through the layers we build, layers of performance, pride, insecurity, and self-protection. And when he sees through you, it's not to expose you for shame. It's to free you from it. We wear masks because we think we have to. We think the world only accepts the polished version of ourselves. So we put on faces that look strong when we feel weak. Faces that smile when we're breaking inside. We walk into rooms hoping no one notices the weight we're carrying. But Jesus notices. Not with judgment, but with compassion. His look doesn't criticize your mask. It calls you out from behind it. When he locks eyes with you, it's as if he's saying, you don't have to pretend with me. That kind of acceptance is rare. That kind of love is holy. Jesus walked this earth surrounded by crowds who wanted something from him. Miracles, answers, hope. But when he looked at people, it wasn't a crowd he saw. It was the individual, the one hiding in plain sight, the one whose story was buried under silence. He saw through the status of the Pharisee and the shame of the prostitute. He saw through the religious facade of the temple and the quiet desperation of the outcast. There was never a time he looked and didn't see fully, and still he loved completely. He sees you trying to keep it together when everything inside is falling apart. He sees the tears you cry when no one is watching. He sees the battles no one else knows about, the ones you fight in your mind, your memories, your emotions. His eyes go deeper than your church clothes, deeper than your social media smile, deeper than the version of you others think they know. And he's not overwhelmed by what he sees. He's not disappointed. He doesn't look away. He stays. He stays because he loves the real you, the raw you, the unfiltered you. There's a reason his look changes people. Because when he sees through you, you feel both known and loved at the same time. That kind of seeing doesn't bring shame. It brings healing. Is what the woman caught in adultery felt when everyone else saw her failure, but Jesus saw her future. He looked at her without a stone in his hand, without a lecture, just a look that said, I know what they say about you, but I also know who you really are. That look gave her a second chance, not because she deserved it, but because he chose it. When you're hiding, his eyes find you. When you've convinced yourself no one would understand, his gaze says, I already do. And when you've been wearing a mask for so long that you've forgotten who you are, his look called you back, back to your original design, back to the version of you that existed before life wounded you, before fear shaped your decisions, before rejection made you build walls. His eyes are not searching for what you think you should be. They're seeking who you truly are underneath it all. Because that's the person he wants to heal, to love, to use. Sometimes the hardest thing to believe is that someone could see all of you and still stay. That someone could know your thoughts, your failures, your past, and still say, you're mine. But that's what Jesus does. He sees through the image, through the pretending, through the rehearsed lines we speak when we don't want to be vulnerable. And he speaks something better. He speaks identity. He speaks restoration. He speaks truth. Not the kind that wounds, but the kind that wakes you up to who you really are. There's a deep sigh your soul releases when you realize you don't have to perform for his love. You don't have to hide. You don't have to keep proving your worth. Because when he looks at you, he already sees it, even if no one else does, even if you don't. He sees the potential in your pain, the beauty in your brokenness, the glory in your growth. He sees past what you're showing and touches what you're hiding. Not to embarrass you, but to embrace you. That is the kind of love that heals the unseen parts of us. That is the kind of gaze that frees us from the masks we thought we needed to survive. His gaze speaks what words cannot. There are moments when human language fails, when explanations fall short, when comfort offered by others just doesn't reach the depths of your need. But when Jesus looks at you, his eyes speak in a way that no sermon, no song, no conversation ever could. It's not that he doesn't speak in words, he does. But there are some things too sacred, too weighty, too personal to be carried by syllables. His gaze communicates on a deeper level, where the soul listens even when the mind doesn't fully understand. In that silence, his eyes carry messages that reach your spirit with clarity and tenderness. When you are too tired to pray, too hurt to speak, too numb to cry, his eyes find you. They don't demand a performance. They don't wait for the right words. They come to you where you are with a knowing that silences your chaos. You might be in the middle of your greatest confusion, wondering if God still sees you, if he still hears you, You feel it more than hear it. You sense the weight of heaven resting on you, not crushing you, but holding you together. That's when you realize he's saying something. Without a word, He's saying everything. His gaze says, I understand, in a way that no one else can. It's not just a general compassion. It's personal, it's precise. His eyes speak of every battle you've fought, every burden you've carried in silence, every moment you've wondered if you were alone. His look tells you that you were never truly invisible, even when others passed you by. He's seen every tear you didn't have the strength to shed. He's felt every ache your heart was too guarded to express. And in that gaze, he says, I was there, not in judgment, not in anger, but in love so deep that words wouldn't do it justice. There's something powerful about being fully seen and still fully loved. His eyes don't flinch at your flaws. They don't scan for your mistakes. They rest on you with purpose, with intent, with understanding. And while people may look at you and see your past, your failure, your scars, Jesus looks and sees your story. He sees your becoming. He sees what you were created for, not just what you've been through. And somehow, in that gaze, hope is spoken. Not the kind of hope that's loud and emotional, but the kind that quietly rebuilds you from the inside out. In the scriptures, there are moments when his eyes spoke louder than any word. When Peter denied him and Jesus looked at him, it wasn't a look of wrath. It was a look that broke through Peter's shame. It was a look that said, I still love you. I still see who you are. That gaze did what no rebuke ever could. It turned a failure into a future. And Peter wept not because of guilt alone, but because that silent look carried a love he couldn't comprehend. That is what the eyes of Jesus do. They say what your heart has longed to hear, but didn't know how to ask for. His gaze offers comfort without cliches. He doesn't give you rehearsed answers or forced optimism. He doesn't need to. Because when he looks at you, peace is released. His eyes calm storms inside you that words can't touch. They tell you you're safe. Not because everything around you makes sense, but because he's in the middle of it with you. That look becomes an anchor when everything else feels unstable. You could be in a crowd or alone in your room, and suddenly feel that gaze. Gentle, steady, unshakable. It surrounds you without trapping you. It fills you without overwhelming you. It reminds you that his presence is not limited to a church service or a mountaintop moment. It's here. Sometimes you won't even be able to explain what happened in that moment when he looked at you. You just know something changed. Your heart softened. Your fears settled. Your questions, while unanswered, didn't seem as urgent anymore. His eyes told you what your soul needed to hear, that you are loved, you are known, and you are not forgotten. That everything you cannot say, he already understands. That in his silence, he is still speaking. And that sometimes the most powerful word from heaven doesn't come in a shout or a prophecy. It comes in a gaze that meets you exactly where you are. You are chosen, not overlooked. That truth carries weight because so many people go through life believing the opposite. Rejection becomes a language we start to understand too early. Rejection from people, from opportunities, from relationships, and sometimes we begin to project that same sense of being unwanted onto God. We assume he sees others, favors others, calls others, but somehow passes us by. But when Jesus locks eyes with you, that narrative is shattered. In that moment, it becomes clear that you were never an afterthought. You were not missed in the crowd. You were not passed over. His gaze settles it. He chose you. To be chosen doesn't mean you're the most qualified or the most put together. It doesn't mean you've never failed or fallen. It simply means he saw you, knew everything about you, and still said yes. That's a kind of love and calling the world can't replicate. Earthly acceptance is often conditional. It's based on performance, appearance, influence. But the choosing of God doesn't operate on those terms. He chooses based on his purpose, his love, and his knowledge of who you are beyond what you see. He called you because he made you. He sees value in you that others miss, and sometimes even you miss. But his choosing isn't dependent on your own recognition of your worth. It's based on his. All throughout Scripture, we see a pattern. God doesn't choose the obvious ones. He doesn't always call the strong, the bold, the visible. He often selects the hidden, the unlikely, the unqualified. David was left in the fields when his brothers were paraded in front of the prophet. But the oil didn't flow for them. It flowed for the one who wasn't even invited to the room. Why? Because man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. David was chosen not because of how others saw him, but because of how God saw him. And when God chooses you, he doesn't need to consult the opinions of others. Being chosen doesn't mean the path will be easy. In fact, many times, the chosen walk a road of refining, of stretching, of waiting. But the choosing itself brings with it a sense of identity and security. You no longer have to chase validation from the world. You no longer have to compete for approval. When the eyes of Jesus find you and settle on you with purpose, you realize that what you were looking for in others has already been given to you by him. His look is enough. His choosing is enough. You are no longer striving for a place at the table. You realize he already prepared a seat for you. It's easy to believe in God's love for humanity in general, but it's harder to personalize it. But when Jesus locks eyes with you, it becomes personal. It's not just God loves people. It's God loves me. It's not just God calls leaders and ministers and strong believers. It's God calls me. That realization changes how you walk, how you pray, how you see yourself. You're no longer performing to earn something. You're living from a place of already being seen, already being known, already being chosen. That's a freedom few ever experience. But once you do, it changes everything. To be chosen is to be set apart, not separated by pride, but marked by purpose. Jesus never looked at people and saw random faces. He saw stories, destinies, callings. He didn't just pass by, he paused. He stopped for the woman with the issue of blood. He noticed the tax collector in the tree. He called the fisherman from the boat. He saw them, and in that seeing he called them. His choosing always starts with a look, a moment of recognition that says, you are not invisible to me. And from there, the journey begins. You might not feel chosen. You might feel like life has handed you more loss than favor, more silence than answers, but feelings don't define calling. His look does. And when he looks at you, there's no hesitation in his gaze, no doubt, no uncertainty, just a quiet, unwavering affirmation that you are who he says you are. Chosen, loved, called, seen. He didn't wait for you to get it all together. He didn't wait for the applause of others. He looked at you as you are, in your mess and your in-between. and said, "That one, I want that one." Looking into his eyes awakens purpose. There is something profoundly stirring about locking eyes with the one who created you, who formed you with intention, who shaped you with a destiny in mind. In a single moment of divine encounter, when your gaze meets his, something dormant begins to rise. It's not forced, it's not loud, but it is undeniable. There is a holy recognition that happens. Your spirit remembers something the world tried to make you forget, that you were made for more, that you were made on purpose, for purpose, that your existence isn't random, that there is a calling written into your very being that only he can fully reveal. Many walk through life confused about their purpose, questioning their identity, drifting from one role to another, hoping something will finally feel right. But purpose is not something we discover through striving. It is awakened in intimacy. When you look into the eyes of Jesus, you begin to see yourself through his perspective. Not the flawed, fractured version shaped by past mistakes or human opinions, but the original version he dreamed before the foundation of the world. His gaze speaks identity into you. It awakens parts of you that have been asleep under the weight of disappointment, fear, and comparison. The world will try to define you by your failure, your status, your performance. But Jesus defines you by his design. When his eyes meet yours, it's not about what you've done. It's about what he sees in you. And what he sees is purpose waiting to be activated. That's why so many in Scripture had life-changing moments, not just when he spoke, but when he saw them. The calling didn't begin with a job or a title. It began with a look. When he saw Peter, he didn't just see a fisherman. He saw a rock, a leader, someone who would carry the gospel. When he saw Matthew, he didn't see a corrupt tax collector. He saw a disciple, a writer of one of the Gospels. That look redefined their lives. Purpose is not a distant goal. It's a present awareness of divine assignment. And that awareness is ignited when we dare to stop looking around and start looking at him. When your eyes meet his, you stop measuring your worth by earthly standards. You stop chasing the validation of others and start walking in the confidence that comes from being chosen for something eternal. You realize you don't need to be perfect to be purposeful. You just need to be present in his gaze, willing to respond when he calls. In his eyes, there is both invitation and commission. He calls you closer, not only to comfort you, but to commission you. He looks at you with tenderness, but also with fire, fire that ignites vision, fire that burns away the lies you've believed, fire that refines your calling. In his gaze is a reminder that your life has meaning, even when you feel small, even when your surroundings don't reflect your potential, because he doesn't look at your circumstances. He looks at your capacity. He sees what can be if you surrender, if you believe, if you follow. So many live beneath their calling, not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they've never truly seen themselves through his eyes. But when you do, you can't stay the same. That vision becomes too clear to ignore. That purpose becomes too real to deny. Even in seasons of waiting, even in seasons of obscurity, that memory of his gaze keeps you going. It becomes your compass, your anchor, your fuel. You don't need applause. You don't need recognition. You just need to remember that moment when your purpose was awakened by his look. His eyes don't just awaken generic potential. They awaken specific assignment. He knows what he placed inside you. He knows the exact gifts, the precise timing, the unique influence you carry. And he looks at you with expectation, not pressure. He's not demanding performance. He's drawing out what's already inside you. Sometimes he will look at you and you will feel both comforted and challenged. Comforted because he's with you. Challenged because he knows you're capable of more than you think. And in that gaze, you realize your story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. When you look into his eyes, you stop striving and start becoming. You stop doubting and start rising. You don't need to know every step. Purpose doesn't begin with clarity. It begins with connection. And connection happens in that look. That sacred exchange when you see you and you see him. And something eternal is exchanged in the silence. You're no longer just surviving. You're stepping into destiny, not because of your strength, but because his eyes told you it was time to begin.